A chilling wind swept through the village of Black Hollow, rustling the dying leaves like a hushed warning. The town had long lived under the shadow of a strange curse, one whispered from generation to generation. It all started with a sparrow. A small, unassuming bird, yet one that carried a secret so dark that even the bravest souls trembled at its name. No one could recall when it had begun, only that every so often, when the clock struck midnight, a sparrow would land on someone's window and whisper their name. By dawn, that person would be gone, vanished without a trace. The villagers tried to ignore it, to rationalize the disappearances, but deep down, they all knew, when the sparrow called your name, your time was up. Enter Tim Bumbleworth, an overconfident traveling merchant who thought of himself as the bravest man alive. Tim had never encountered a problem he couldn't talk his way out of, or so he believed. When he arrived in Black Hollow, the villagers warned him of the sparrow's curse, but he only scoffed. "A bird? Stealing people away? Please, I'll have a conversation with it and negotiate better terms," he laughed. That night, as the village slept, Tim sat outside his rented cabin, holding a cup of tea and waiting for the so-called Cursed Sparrow. "Come on, birdie," he muttered. "Let's have a chat." Just as he was about to give up, a sharp rustling noise came from the trees. Tim squinted into the darkness. And then he saw it, a small sparrow, perched on his window frame. Its eyes gleamed like tiny black holes. Then, to his horror, it spoke. "Timothy Bumbleworth," it whispered in a raspy, unnatural voice. Tim froze. His cup of tea slipped from his hand and shattered on the ground. Hello," he stammered. "Nice night, isn't it?" The sparrow tilted its head, its tiny beak parting ever so slightly. "You must leave, or be taken." Tim, never one to back down from an argument, crossed his arms. "Now listen here, little bird. I have a very tight travel schedule, and I can't just vanish. How about we negotiate?" The sparrow did not move. Instead, a gust of wind howled through the trees, carrying a distant whisper. It was not one voice, but many, murmuring in unison. Tim's face paled. "Okay. Maybe I should listen to the locals for once." But before he could move, shadows began to creep from the corners of the cabin, stretching unnaturally. The whispers grew louder, surrounding him. The sparrow remained still, watching. Tim tried to run, but the moment his foot hit the ground, he felt something grip his ankle. Cold. Unrelenting. He screamed, but the shadows swallowed the sound. The last thing he saw was the sparrow, fluttering its wings, before everything went black. The disappearance of Timothy Bumbleworth sent ripples of fear through Black Hollow. The villagers were accustomed to the sparrow's curse, but Tim's vanishing had been different. He had laughed in the face of the legend. He had spoken to the sparrow. And now, he was gone without a trace. A week passed, and rumors spread like wildfire. Some whispered that Tim had been taken into the shadows, doomed to wander a realm unseen. Others believed he was still alive, trapped between this world and the next, unable to escape. But no one dared search for him. No one, except for Eleanor Gray. Eleanor was the town's historian, a woman who had spent her life chronicling the tragedies of Black Hollow. She had seen too many lives lost to the Cursed Sparrow, and she was tired of living in fear. With trembling hands, she retrieved her great-grandfather's journal, which contained records of past disappearances. The names, the dates, the patterns. One detail stood out, something she had never noticed before. Every single person who vanished had heard the sparrow whisper their name twice before they disappeared. Once on the night before, and again just before they were taken. Tim had only heard it once. "He's still here," Eleanor whispered, her heart pounding. "He hasn't been fully taken yet." With newfound resolve, Eleanor gathered her lantern, a satchel of salt, for protection, according to old village superstition, and a worn map of Black Hollow. If Tim was trapped in the shadows, then that's where she needed to go. That night, Eleanor ventured toward Tim's abandoned cabin. The air was unnaturally cold, and the silence was oppressive. As she approached, she noticed the sparrow still perched on the window frame, watching her with unblinking eyes. Its presence sent a shiver down her spine. "I know you can hear me," Eleanor said, her voice steady. "Where is Timothy Bumbleworth?" The sparrow did not answer. Instead, the whispers returned, carried by the wind. They were faint at first, but they grew louder, surrounding her like an invisible chorus. Eleanor held her lantern high, its feeble glow casting long, quivering shadows around her. She took a step closer to the cabin. The whispers ceased. Then, in a voice that was not her own, the sparrow spoke, "Turn back, Eleanor Gray." Eleanor's breath hitched. It knew her name. Her instincts screamed at her to run, but she stood her ground. "Not until I get him back." The shadows slithered across the floor, moving with unnatural fluidity. The cabin door creaked open on its own, revealing darkness beyond comprehension. And then, a hand shot out from the void. Eleanor gasped, stumbling back. It was Tim, or what remained of him. His skin was pallid, his eyes wide and unseeing, as if he had been lost in endless darkness. His mouth moved, but no sound escaped. He was trying to speak. Eleanor gritted her teeth, reached forward, and grasped his wrist. It was ice-cold. The shadows resisted, trying to pull him back, but she held on with all her strength. "You're not taking him," she screamed. The sparrow screeched, a sound unlike anything earthly. The shadows recoiled, their tendrils snapping and writhing as if burned by her defiance. And then, with a final heave, Eleanor yanked Tim free. They collapsed onto the ground, gasping for air. The cabin door slammed shut, and the whispers faded. The sparrow remained, perched on the window frame, watching. It did not speak. But Eleanor knew this wasn't over.